Hello.
Hello.
What's up?
Hope everybody's doing good today. There's spooky music because there's spooky topics afoot. We are Discover RPG and we have a panel.
Yeah.
We have a whole flipping group of people, which I have to reorganize. Hold on. I'll do them in order.
Now I am
We
Allorah.
have Gabby. And we have Lane. And we sadly do not have Naomi, the first of Strahd's victims this evening. And, no, she was taken by the tech gremlins. But we very much appreciate her trying her best to do, troubleshooting. We also have a Tessa, who is with us as almost a spectral entity this evening, as she is the text you see above her, rather. She says, "Hello, hi, friends." I shall be her voice this evening. And as usual, we have myself, we have Allorah, and we have Franz in a slightly less animated but no less excited state of being. Hello, Franz.
Yeah. Hi.
See, I cheated a little bit. Your yellow bar that shows up when you are talking is now behind your head, so people can see when you're talking.
Oh, you know, you're so smart, Angela.
Very clever.
Indeed.
Workaround.
Yep. Where there's a will, there's a...
Should we do a
bullshit.
disclaimer? I want to do a quick disclaimer, a little
Okay.
fun fact about Gabby and I. Regular watchers of the network may know that I run Dragon's Crown on Fridays and Gabby plays John Lambden.
Hi.
What we try to keep contained is the fact that Gabby runs Curse of Strahd for the same group. So we have a really fun and interesting power dynamic going on here, just so everyone knows.
Yep. Can confirm.
Yep.
All right. So with that in mind, we have some fun discussions to have tonight. We are following up with our first Curse of Strahd panel, in which we talked to Lane and Naomi about their experiences running the very well-known, very vampiric D&D module. And we are going to talk to them and some new faces to the panel to discuss a little bit of their experiences running the game, and more importantly, how they modify or hold on.
I'm just gonna say it out loud. Literally every time I type that, it always goes normal. It's like my computer knows.
Right at the beginning, it's grainy, and then it fixes it. It usually takes.
That it does that.
It's encoding. It's the encoding. Who knows why? Anyway, so as our video clears, so we're gonna talk about how people modify Strahd and how people adapt aspects of that adventure module to their tables. So let's do two quick introductions. Let's introduce us to our panelists, and then we will do a very, very infinitesimally brief preview introduction to what module we're talking about. So let's start with the easiest one. Let's start with Tessa first. No, I'm just kidding. Tessa, just type yours out, and I'll read it, and we'll get to you. So you have two people.
You have to do your best Tessa impression.
Tessa's just Tessa. I don't have an impression of a person. So, full of curse words and sass. Yep, that is valid. All right. So, let's start with Gabby. Gabby, why don't you tell... Well, your name is Gabby. Hello.
We've established a couple of...
How about this? Why don't we answer the following question?
Okay.
How long have you been running Curse of Strahd? And versus how long have you been DMing? How much of your DMing has been Curse of Strahd? How about that?
So yeah, Gabby, hello, with a little bit of corner of Allorah, which
I can't crop it. I made the mistake, and I suffer for it.
Gabby's video.
It's okay. It's great.
So I have personally been running Curse of Strahd
That's
for a little over a year now. I have also been DMing for a little over a year now.
Was Strahd your first campaign, or are you running it for your first campaign?
So Curse of Strahd is my first campaign that I am running. I have ran one-shots before, but this has been my first full-blown campaign that I decided to finally bite the bullet and just sit down and go like, hey, you, and you, sit down, we're going to play.
Oh my god. That's exciting. Well, congratulations, bud.
It's very fun.
Welcome to the show. Or welcome to the big show, which is DMing. Lane.
Hello.
What's your experience with DMing and with Strahd?
I have been DMing, for about 7 years, and I've been running Curse of Strahd for about 2.5 now.
Nice. Naomi has been taken by Strahd for approximately 20 minutes, and I have no other answers for her. So
she's been running it for about a year now.
Gotcha. Awesome.
Over.
Hi, I'm Tessa. I've been DMing for about 10 years. I have run one campaign of Curse of Strahd to completion, and I have another one that's been going on for a little over a year. And that specifically, correct me if I'm wrong, that specifically is the one you've been running for a couple of youngins. Okay.
Children.
The youngins have... I should really let her finish. Oh, gotcha. Curse of Mad Max Fury of Strahd. Very nice. So the younger players that she ran with have just finished the Curse of Strahd, and she is currently running a weekly game. Awesome. Which is why the youngins finished faster. Oh, because they were weekly. Okay. That's fair.
That tracks. That makes sense.
Let's go with Allorah. You're about to start Strahd.
Sorta, yeah. So we started our first episode. I say episode. We started our first game a few weeks ago, 2 weeks ago, I think. It was really fun. I had a good time. I've only played it once before, and that lasted about as long as I've been playing now. So,
kick ass. Well, I'm excited for you. Being that Allorah is running or is going to be in a game, anyone else who has not played and is thinking of playing Curse of Strahd, be warned that we will be discussing. You can't really avoid it in a discussion of DMs that we will be talking plot points. I would say in general we probably should avoid like talking about the climactic ending of a story unless it is very important to the conversation we're having. Maybe stick to not revealing the ends or twists of things, but we can have conversations about the themes and the characters and the basic plotting.
my GM knows I'm here.
I had somewhere a spoilers GIF that I had saved, so I will see if I can track it down. That I can put it on this.
Most likely.
Yeah, I'll put it on the screen if I find it. So we have our group here. Let's get to chatting. So the second introduction we want to do is to the actual concept of Curse of Strahd. Does somebody want to give a couple of sentences that just kind of give you a real quick overview of the who, what, where, and the why of Curse of Strahd? If you were like reading the back of the book, someone could literally read the back of the book if they wanted to.
Shit,
I don't have it in this room, Angela. If you had told me, I would have been prepared.
No,
this is a panel about Strahd. You were as prepared as you were going to be.
You would think. But no.
Be prepared.
Challenging everyone.
Prepared. What's that?
Oh, look at that. Tessa's beating y'all
Look
and
at
she's
you,
typing
Tessa.
it. All right. Somebody fill time. Fill air.
Oh my God.
Thanks for that. That was really helpful.
The song that goes through my character on Dragon's Crown's head when there's no other thoughts. That's what I get for having a
Wait, John just dreams of Jin?
No, he dreams of Tiamat, so we'll just say that's the theme song.
That's the theme song to I Dream of Tiamat.
He dreams of Reese's Puffs.
That's valid. Oh, I found it. I found the spoilers. Okay. So, if spoilers start, you will see the following red light start flashing above Gabby's head. And when the light goes away,
red, isn't it?
No, you're okay. It was just a random choice. And when it goes away, it is then safe to unmute or do whatever you plan on doing to avoid spoilers. But we will have it. It will happen. Is the main point. All right, so we do have Tessa's thing. So Tessa says, gothic horror adventure relying heavily on classic monster tropes and figures. That's a fair assessment. You end up in the land/town of Barovia, which you can insert into your game through a variety of methods and MacGuffins and MacGuffin-y fog, if you wish. There are a couple of really pocket dimension, sure. The idea being that you then have to deal with the sort of morose and macabre setting and the various characters you find under Strahd von Zarevich's dominion, I guess.
Thumb, dominion, same thing.
Yeah.
Also, he's OGL compliant, so we can talk about him however we want.
Yeah. Oh my God.
just like Steamboat Willie will be next year. Haha.
Wow.
Which is funny. Anyway, so let's chat a bit. We have Tessa has finished a game. Gabby, how far-ish do you think in the main story your party has gotten?
So the party is at about level 8 right now, and the module itself is set to go at about level 10 or so.
Okay.
So they're really getting up there in terms of the story. I mean, I don't think it's the biggest spoiler because this is kind of well known of a location that you will be going to, which is that of Strahd's home base of Castle Ravenloft at the moment. And they haven't even scratched the surface of that, and I'm very excited. They aren't complete just yet, but there are some things starting to come up that are slowly, I guess, wrapping some stories or making some stories a big old clusterfuck. But no, they're getting high up there. I wouldn't be surprised if we complete the game sometime this year, honestly.
Nice.
We are a bi-weekly game when we can. So I either sometime this year or super early next year, to be perfectly honest. They depends on what they do as well. I've been thrown off before by these players.
Feel that.
Only a few times.
The fun thing about being a new DM is really learning the amount of curveballs that a player will throw at me. I know I know the curveballs I have thrown at DMs, but then when it's the other way around, I'm like, oh, that's what it feels like. Okay.
I just found the thing that Tessa was joking about. I didn't realize that was actually an aesthetic for Mickey Mouse. But like, there is Vampire Mickey. Anyway.
It's a surprise tool that will help us later.
Delightful. So, let's say, so Lane, how far along are your players?
They're a little over halfway through. That's really only because they want to do everything, so it's taking them a lot longer to get through stuff, which is fine by me because we only play once a month, so it's gonna take a while anyway. But I give them options and they want to do all the options, which is great because it means I get to come up with more things, but it's taking them a while to get through stuff because they're just really excited and want to try to do everything.
Maury, also hello Maury. Maury said, my headcanon is that the domains of dread are the multiversal equivalent of a tumor. They appear with little warning, often get worse if left unchecked, and are rarely benign. That's a really fun poetic way to put it.
I think that's pretty accurate, actually. We've
Yeah.
read about a lot of the domains of dreads through Van Richten's Guide to Ravenloft, because there are some interesting ones.
Now, remind me if I'm wrong, correct me if I'm wrong, so Barovia is just one of the domains of dread. It is not the entirety of the domains of dread.
Correct. Yeah,
Okay.
Barovia specifically is Strahd's domain of dread. They do cover it in Rictavio's Guide to Ravenloft, but again, that's just such a small amount.
It's
Sorry,
very
who's Guide to Ravenloft?
Yeah.
Van Richten's Guide.
No, I like Rictavio.
Yeah.
That's great.
No, I call
It's Van Richter. Van Richter wears a little pencil mustache and does tango. Plays Rictavio.
The names are similar, so that's why I think I threw myself off.
You don't
even know.
So, I am the worst person to be hosting this panel because I have never played nor have I ever DM'd Curse of Strahd. So, let's think about what we want to talk about here. Go for it.
Interesting to bring up actually is how you brought up about the mists bringing you directly. Now, my question is, when you said Barovia, were you saying the village of Barovia specifically? Because I think that's what you said. Because
I mentioned both inadvertently.
Yeah,
not knowing the difference between the two.
I understand that there is a like land of Barovia and then the village of Barovia.
Yeah, because what's interesting about
because Strahd sucks at naming things.
Yeah. Because what I find interesting about part of the campaign module itself, it says you don't have to have your players immediately start in the village of Barovia.
Correct.
Yep.
I do know that much.
There are options to have them start elsewhere, which could lead to a whole different kind of story and campaign. I like to imagine.
Absolutely.
I do really like the. I believe from the little bit that I was studying, I tried to come in a little bit like blank, but from what I understand, the House of Dread is one way to do it, right? You could have them. Is it Death House?
Yes.
Death House.
Death House, yes.
Yes,
That is
that
a way
one.
to do it to them. Yes.
Have them have that show up,
Yeah.
and then they leave it. They're like, "Yeah, we survived," and then you're in Barovia. It's like, what the fuck?
Yeah. Pretty much.
Okay, so then whoever got there before Strahd was sucked at naming then. Fine, Jay. They were both named Barovia before he got there. He just renamed the castle and the lake after his parents and ignored everything else.
You know?
The sentiment still stands.
Yeah,
Thank
it still
you.
stands.
Thank you, Jay. So full of useless knowledge about Strahd.
Yeah, Jay's been reading the books and I've been meaning to
my
also
God.
read them.
Jay has read like all of the fucking books regarding Strahd and the.
I respect it.
God.
Yeah, so he is so full of knowledge it isn't even canon anymore.
Is this an I can fix him situation?
It feels a little bit like
No.
an I can fix
With
him.
Jay in our campaign, no. I'll tell you.
Okay, good.
No, Jay would not dare.
No, I'll
Not
say
with
this.
me around.
No one in my campaign is in the I can fix him kind of mindset when he comes with Strahd. It's more of a I want to fucking punch him in the face kind of vibe that I'm getting with my players.
I know you said fucking punch him in the face,
Yeah,
but I heard
you
fuck and
You paused
Yeah.
enough that was what I heard too.
Yeah.
No.
Tessa said, try having a group of 5, 10 to 13-year-olds.
I don't
playing
want
this
to
game.
imagine that. You have more willpower than I ever will.
Well, unfortunately, with Tessa's voice being lost to the winds as it is, we won't be able to get I imagine we won't be able to get too deep into the subject. But I mean, hearing some of the stories of Tessa's adventures with these kids has been really,
Don't
really
hurt
fun.
your-
Don't
yourself.
do it, Tessa.
Don't do it, Tess.
I have a question as
Yeah,
a
go for it.
fairly new player. So I know that there are in the actual module that there are there are typically I love the name. It's so good.
Yes, Kazoo in My Pocket is an incredibly cool name.
That there's typically like archetypes that people can fall into regarding the like player characters and everything like that. Did your players stick to those or did they branch off, and do you think it's helped or do you think it's hurt the campaign? Maybe not hurt, but do you think it's made it more interesting in certain ways is probably the better way to phrase that.
Like archetypes they kind of chose for their character going
So
in.
like, you know, like elven druid or like human paladin or different things like that. Like, do you think that those specifically are the best choices for the campaign? Or do you think that
Or do they go
out-
into Edgelord? Is that better for a Strahd game? No?
Oh, it wasn't quite what I was saying, but yes.
Oh, sorry.
Go ahead, Lane, because it looks
No,
like you.
I'm just like, I'm the wrong person to ask about this because my players just do weird shit for the sake of doing weird shit. Like one of them is a bear alchemist. Greatest character I have ever had in a game.
Well-
Annie Bear is the greatest thing ever, but she's very weird and makes no sense.
Okay, well that's an interesting concept though. Like an alchemist, how do they function in the setting? Do you think they do well? Do you think they
Is
do
it like a cocaine bear kind of thing?
No, not at all. It's a
Sorry, I had to make
I just like science and I ended up doing alchemy by accident kind of situation.
Nice.
Like,
'Cause I went the traditional. I swung a slight domain homebrew domain with my DM, but it's pretty.
Allorah
it's pretty damn
Allorah
close.
swinging a
Shut up.
homebrew? What?
never.
Someday I'm gonna make Allorah play like a fighter champion.
I actually was looking at it today. Weirdly enough.
That's interesting.
And
for me
yes, Maura, you are correct.
I mean, that's interesting for me to answer just because of the party makeup from my game. Because Franz started the campaign, like majority of the campaign he played, his character was kind of a homebrew that he found online called Abhorsion, based off the books. I forget the name of the author, but there was a book series.
Garth
Nix.
Nix.
That was it. And so Franz brought that to me, and I thought it was a really cool concept. Franz, if you want to, you can discuss briefly, like, the loose idea of the Abhorsion, because I thought it was really intriguing for this campaign.
Yeah, so if you're not familiar with Abhorsen or the Lost Kingdom series by Garth Nix, it really goes around a lot of things. But the thing with the Abhorsen is that they have these bells that use something called charter magic. They're basically necromancer bells, or they have little pipes that they can use to also play the charter notes. So a couple different people homebrewed this idea into like D&D 5e, of course. I think the author actually like retweeted it a couple times too, which I thought was cool. But I'm like, I want to play. This would be so cool for a Curse of Strahd because everything's just like undead. And I was really excited about it at first, and it was really cool, like the whole aesthetics of it. But goddamn, that was not a good homebrew. Goddamn.
We were dealing with a lot of balancing issues, and I say balancing issues, more like balancing not so much in favor of Franz the player.
I didn't have anything to do. I couldn't really do anything.
But it was still a really cool concept. Franz then like only recently has now decided to switch up the class, because I told Franz when he was talking with me about it to switch up the class if he needed to. I gave him that free reign, so he's now a Grave Domain cleric. Which is still follows along a lot with the concept and the idea of the Abhorsion, I thought. But so we now have a cleric, we have a paladin, we have a monk, and we have a barbarian. But for the longest time, no real cleric, and the paladin was more of the melee kind of combatant. So they did fine. There was one blip, but they did fine.
I being me, I took the cleric position because of course I did. But I ended up doing a knockoff of the light domain, essentially, that is in like the traditional. So it's called the peace domain, which is going to be a very interesting,
different from the peace domain that is out there.
Yes.
Cool.
I think it might. I don't know. I'd have to look.
I was just asking.
Please hold. I'll pull up my character sheet.
I'll chime in with Tessa's though. First of all, Tessa had a player who was a Warforged lawyer who served Strahd paperwork.
I love that with every fiber of my being.
Very, very good. Most of my players have not really leaned into the tropes for gothic horror. I had a player who played Billiam Murphyson, a ghostbuster who had gotten lost in the dimension of Barovia.
Beautiful.
Amazing.
Mario!
Yeah, I think the only two players who really kind of leaned into the gothic theme of Curse of Strahd was Franz with Abhorsion, just the idea of someone who actively combats and fights against the idea of undeath, and then Jay's character, our barbarian, who Franz mentioned in the last this panel, is playing a Dampier. Which
is very intriguing in a vampire setting.
It's fun. And I would say that they've stuck to it, but their characters are, I think, being thrown in with a little bit of trauma over the campaign with
just a little bit
thrown at them. So they're not quite the same when they entered, which is, I think, supposed to happen in a Curse of Strahd game, at least depending on the level in which you're going for, like the themes you're kind of going for with a campaign like this, because like Tessa's could easily, like, they don't have to be traumatized, but in our campaign,
but it helps.
Most of my players are gung ho for like a good chunk of stuff, so it's so freeing.
It's easy when you fall in love with Irina.
Yeah,
that is fair.
Well, what's really, just in general, pulling it back a little bit, what's really fun about horror is that, especially like gothic horror, you can you can take it in so many different directions because people respond to fear so differently. So you can have it be a sort of madcap comedy kind of horror. You could have it be very Young Frankenstein. You could have it be very serious and true to its roots and actually quite like quite elegant and morose. You could have it be really fucking dark. You could go all, if you wanted to go more of a Hostel or a Scream sort of, or I guess Scream's still comedy, but you could go actual little more like blood and guts horror. It just depends on what flavor of horror you want to play in the setting. So I really do appreciate the versatility of horror as a genre.
Yeah.
So, a couple updates. Unfortunately, Naomi sends her regards. Her internet has not improved and doesn't look like it will be. It's also super, super late for her. So,
Yeah.
That's understandable.
Bow out, unfortunately, but we will hopefully have her back on the network in the near future.
Yeah.
We appreciate her trying her damnedest.
Yeah.
Also, it was not a homebrew, so suck it, Angela.
Okay.
That's okay. I'm proud of you.
Thank you.
I'm very
making
proud of
progress.
you. I'm very proud of you. And in Naomi's honor, I put a Dark Souls "You died" over her. She did not survive her encounter with Strahd.
Oh no.
Oh, you glutton for punishment, Jay. Made an Eladrin who became a Dampier who is agonizing over losing his deep connections and feelings because it's so fun.
It's especially fun for me. I love it.
So Tessa, you said, I will say having players who enjoy leaning into the backgrounds offered is great, and there are so many good options. So you're talking about like the gothic backgrounds, the
haunted one.
Haunted one's great.
Yeah.
I have people pull that out in many other campaigns too.
Yeah.
We have several haunted ones. Hey, what's up,
we
Gabby?
both have the haunted one. We both
Was
had
I haunted?
one.
No, I was criminal. I don't think I was haunted.
Okay. No,
I mean, she has completely legitimately justified in being haunted, but I didn't decide to do that.
Haunted by Papa John himself.
Oh my god.
Oh
My
God.
other Curse of Strahd group are champions of Food Network stars fighting Strahd as the head of the Circular Church of Papa John's. That's why he doesn't like crosses. They're two straight lines. They must be round. That's diabolical.
That's amazing.
Oh my god, that's really, really good.
That's amazing. Wow.
So, let's, why don't we talk a little bit, okay, so Strahd, Curse of Strahd is theoretically a very big adventure, despite how limited the geography is. Lane, you've been running it for so long because they're, like, completionist about it.
And we don't run very often, so they're just, it's not necessarily
that also makes sense.
completionist, they're all very interested in what I present to them, and that's just I knew this going in with these people, that they're all very much like, I want to explore and I want to see things. And
Awesome. That's a nice problem to have, though, if they're like, oh yeah, I want to hang on every word you say.
Yes, Allorah?
Thank you. That brings up an interesting point, though, because based upon, I know we've at least had the conversation that a lot of stuff that you have to do in Curse of Strahd is homebrewed because of how problematic the system can be.
Yes.
Yeah.
With that being said, how much do you feel like your players gravitate towards it? Is it more like just subtle changes to make it homebrew so it's not problematic? Or is it like full on, here's a whole side quest that you can do?
For me, it's a mix of things. There are, because of the nature of our game, and I have a small amount of players, some things are like wholesale changes that I've made, or just things that I've come up with in between things, and some of it is just small subtle changes that I've made to existing things to make it not problematic, and then they just are like, oh, that sounds cool, and I'm like, pick one, and you do that one first, and then you can do the other one. I have not prepped for both.
I actually have a question of. Go ahead, Gabby.
No, go ahead.
I was wondering if we wanted to talk a little bit about what the thematic content and what the themes in Strahd are, and then we can bounce back to the like what you change and what you don't change, because if there's like certain concepts of like why is Strahd problematic, why, like, what are the things that actually come up a lot in that game that could be those lines. I mean, I'm assuming one really major one is probably just the horror elements itself, depending on the game you're running, because you could easily, like I said, lean into blood and guts and all the little button pressy horror elements. You could really lean into those if you don't have a group that has a problem with that stuff. Or, you know, you might have it be something where the horror is that the mood is what is horror. It's the tone of it, rather than there being actual, like, horrific violence and things like that happening. But like, what are some of the themes in Strahd that you really like leaning into, and what are some of the things that you probably minimize a little bit because it just either you or the players don't gravitate to that? And you can go into like plot points if that's helpful in terms of exploring that. Let's see.
Theme of Curse of Strahd.
Yeah, I'm
Well,
trying
there's
to think about
lots
how
of
to
themes.
phrase
There's
that.
probably lots of things.
Yeah.
So like,
because there's a lot of directions you can take Curse of Strahd, really depending on your group. Now, I mean, kind of in my personal experience, I'm not normally a horror person, and yet I was very drawn to playing this kind of game because I have control over the horror.
That's one way of experiencing horror that can be very cathartic, is having control over the story. Absolutely.
And so in my game, it gets bloody, but we don't go for the hardcore gore.
Same.
That makes me icky. But what I do throw in is a lot of the psychological or the haunting of like, you never know if he's listening. Is he there? You never know. So it's kind of like that bit of paranoia, I guess, because like my players have been made aware at this point that what they say could be listened in on at some point, or what they do, like so kind of that like, well, what are we gonna do? Is like, well, we gotta I guess thriller, like intense thriller is kind of a good theme that I say would work for my game.
Jumping off of that specific interpretation, I just need to know this for my own knowledge. Have you ever had him show up like full on labyrinth, like Jareth just coming out of the fucking woodwork?
Yeah.
Not yet.
Give him a little crystal ball.
Oh, there was a this is something that I did myself, is that they did have a brief solo encounter with him early in their game.
Oh no.
When they were not anywhere near powerful enough to deal with him, but it was that moment of like, he's just saying hi, because of how I like to kind of play.
I see you.
How are you enjoying my labyrinth?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
It's that introduction of like, you could have him back, but you know, not quite that. But he's definitely he definitely creeps them out enough where it's like, yes, excellent. They're just scared of any mention of Strahd now.
My job is done here.
So Maury mentioned something that I think would play well with this discussion. Maury said, "I wonder if anyone has run it with a more Bloodborne-esque vibe." So Bloodborne is very it's very Lovecraft inspired. One of the big themes in Bloodborne has to do with what humans are willing to do for knowledge, like the different ways that people seek knowledge and understanding of the universe, or like ascension to godhood. So like that's a higher level, like the idea of the things that you see in Barovia, leaning into it being a domain of dread, having that be a major theme, rather than Strahd could very easily just be a supernatural but still just corrupt ruler kind of story. You could also lean into more like, what is the nature of him being a monster? That kind of thing. Like, does anybody play Strahd as redeemable in any way? Because that's certainly a reinterpretation of the character.
I mean, it's an interpretation. I personally don't. I think I am of the opinion that there are just some villains you cannot redeem. That I feel like the redeeming villain trope is overused. Personally, I feel like there have become a lot of stories of villain redemption. And sometimes I'm like, no, let them just be bad guys. Let them be bad. I want their comeuppance.
Yeah, I don't know what that's like. People wanting to constantly redeem bad guys. Or date them, or...
It was written into the backstory, okay? You consented to this.
See, the thing is, especially with vampires in particular, for myself, is that like they're not human. They don't have any humanity. They're not alive. How could you appeal to the humanity to something that's not human or even mortal? That's always my thing with Strahd in particular, and also like just like vampires and undead. Like, man.
Yeah,
I think it leans into the metaphysics of it. It's like, what is your definition of the vampire? Because, like, look at, like, different types of vampire lore where you have, like, the only one that comes in my head right now is, like, Buffy lore, where it's like, no, they have the potential to have a soul, and the soul is what's missing, but you can put it back. And it's like, so that idea that it's not intrinsically without the potential for redemption.
I like what Tess said, is the monsters inside humanity is an aspect I'd like to explore a lot, but it really depends on the group, which I think is absolutely
yes.
It really depends.
Some
on
groups just want to put a stake in his heart.
My group
and
wants
that's
to just put a
My
stake
group
through
wants
his
to
heart.
dissolve the establishment he's created, so that's close enough.
I think it's kind of interesting because, and I'm jumping off of from a Vampire the Masquerade standpoint slightly, but the idea of humanity specifically is attributed to the thing that you had prior to being a vampire, not so much you being a vampire. There's nothing, if not very little, you can do to redeem yourself. And it's more just, even if you try to, stay as quote unquote human or morally sound as possible, you still ever so slightly have that descent. So I think it's interesting looking at it from that point of view, but also like putting it into a Strahd perspective, because this is going off of very limited knowledge, so take everything I say with a grain of salt. He has gone so far away from that humanity that he is no longer redeemable in any sort of aspect. Now, with that being said, that's not to say that his mortal self prior to being a vampire couldn't be redeemable. There's a really great group on TikTok. I don't know what their name is. I will look it up before the end of our panel, but he did a really good interpretation. The GM did a really good interpretation of how Strahd came to be a vampire, from what I understand. And it was very theatrical. It was really awesome to see. But I think you see the humanity die in that specific thing. And I won't go into detail because obviously
that is appreciated,
spoilers.
but that's really cool though. We have a bunch of things in chat that I want to read, but so I think that there are from what I know of the story, it seems like there are a lot more characters that are more ripe for redeeming qualities being inserted into them than Strahd himself. We have had many conversations about a certain population of people that might have been lambasted by some sort of weird moralistic, jingoistic attitudes.
Again, first thing I did.
Yes, when we've talked about that before. I want to go back to Tessa really quick though. So because I run for tweens and teens a lot, I have excised portions of the module as a whole, specifically some of the issues in the town of Vallaki.
Which is an interesting location, just in general.
Yeah. So we had a couple of things in the chat.
Yeah, I was gonna bring up what Jay said.
Yeah, let's see. Okay, I'll start at the top. Maury said, look, villains are fundamentally more attractive than heroes. Redeemed villains just let you have your cake and eat it without the moral dilemma.
I mean, I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm not saying villains aren't hot, okay?
Listen,
I'm just saying sometimes I just want my bad boy to stay like a correct bad boy.
Who hasn't thought that Disney backfired when they queer coded all the villains? And then Jay says, explodes because I have so many thoughts about the vampire as a literary device. Speaking of, I recently watched a theory of the origins of vampires having to do with the propagation of rabies, because the idea that it affects your motor skills, it affects your mood and emotions. It can make you outburst. People who have full-blown outbreaks of rabies sometimes have a propensity for violence, including biting people. They are also have a hydrophobic reaction, so that could also be part of the holy water aspect of it. I thought it was very interesting. Anyway, let's see. Mouse said, please someone make Strahd sparkly. That is the only lore I want brought over, even though I also personally hate it became a thing, but gosh, it would be funny. It would be pretty funny to do a, if anyone's ever seen like the disco, like the disco or Dayglow D&D, it would be pretty funny to do Strahd as like a disco vampire. Jay, Strahd is unfortunately written as a Victorian vampire like Dracula or Lord Ruthven, so he's not the redeemable kind because his creator thinks that the epitome of the vampire, thinks that's the epitome of the vampire because he thinks fantasy is all good and evil, black and white. The I, Strahd books are interesting, but they keep reverting to the dumb Dracula thing.
Which, considering the time period those books were written, it makes sense.
Yeah.
Those came out in like the 80s, 90s, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
But that's just a theory. A vampire theory.
Yeah.
Thank you, Maury. And yes, I do now want a let's go to the mall, everybody.
Oh my God.
You're welcome. So let's say, we haven't talked to Gabby or Tessa about this. What are your favorite things that you have wholesale changed in Strahd? Whether it's a character, a plot line, or a group of maligned xenophobic victims.
I'm so glad you asked because I have been so excited to talk about this because I feel like the character that I am about to bring up was not talked about at all in the last panel.
Spoiler alert up. Go ahead.
Yes. I want to talk about Isaac Strahd in Vallaki.
So give us a quick elevator pitch of the character and then talk about him a little bit more.
Okay. Isaac in Vallaki is basically the right-hand man of the burgomaster, the mayor of Vallaki, Baron Vargas Valakovich.
These names, man, it's like a fucking...
I know.
It's like a fucking Game of Thrones game.
The amount of times my players called him Valakovich, I mean, it's...
Oh, that's so good. That's so good. I mean... Bonzarovich, too. There's just a whole group of them.
Yeah, no, that too.
It just gets worse.
It just gets worse. But Isaac is the right-hand man, basically the muscle and the hammer of the Baron, the one who lays out all the rules, and quite literally has a right arm like a demonic arm for his right arm. There's a whole thing about that. I won't dive too deep into his original backstory. Because rules as written Isaac is icky.
As are many things.
Yeah, no, Isaac was one of the first things that I really wanted to change when I read about him because for Isaac rules as written, this is going to be major spoilers. So please make sure if you are...
It is there.
Yeah. and this is something I have homebrew, so this is not something in my game. But Izek originally was meant to be the actual biological brother of Irina Kolyana. Because Irina is actually the adopted daughter of the Baron in the village of not the Baron, the burgomaster of the village of Barovia. An incident happened in their childhood. They got separated. And it led to Izek eventually having this really gross obsession with the lost woman of his dreams, who he does not remember is his sister. And it's really icky.
Gross.
Yeah. So I changed that. I took out the I'm going to say it because it is what it is. It says kind of in the book, incestuous thoughts and feelings of Izek in that book. And I actually altered him enough where I kept the concept of a lost sibling, but I threw that onto one of my players instead.
Nice. That's fun.
pretty common.
It's a pretty common change. The reason why I love Izek is I love the iteration of Izek that is in my campaign, because the character I chose is our monk, who is the princess of a land in a homebrew world of mine. And that's her lost brother, aka a missing prince that has been erased from the family history, basically. That she has repressed memories of remembering because he was so young. She was so young when he disappeared.
God damn it.
Izek
Not wrong.
It's not wrong, but it's not right either.
It's definitely not right. There's nothing
not
right
right.
about it.
Yeah, Sweet Home Alabama. Oh God. And so
Sweet Home
Izek
Barovia
went from being this really gross kind of character to, in my campaign, a more tragic kind of character. And it's been interesting because that monk character is also one who is very gung-ho of not giving a shit about anything. And now she has a thing she cares about. And now she's separated from that thing she cares about in a really traumatic way. And it's amazing.
You undid all of her character development.
I did, and it's great.
I love that you came out of the void specifically for that.
To call me out. Yeah, no, it's great. So that's what I was kind of hoping for that particular character, to be perfectly honest. So I was very excited that the reaction I wanted, yes, the weird doll that's accurate, weird doll fetish. That's a whole thing in and of itself. But Izek was something I definitely, I mean, again, changing Izek, who he is the brother of, is very common to do. For Curse of Strahd. I mean, before I started going to Reddit threads that suggest that, I had come up with that idea myself. Totally original, y'all.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a very common but good change to make because it's so icky and the rules as written. It's
That's the general tone. The rules as written are icky. Change them.
Yeah. So I liked the idea of making Izek a tragic character as well. And it works out because he doesn't overtake the story. I make sure he doesn't completely overtake the story, or at least I hope I'm not making him like that. I'm still a new GM. I will make mistakes. But it was just an interesting plot device to throw into one of my players' backstories. Mm-hmm. The one who decided was brave enough to say, nothing bad has ever happened to my character's backstory in her entire goddamn life. I'm like, challenge accepted.
You thought.
You get a couple of those, don't you, Angela?
Yeah, a couple. Just gotta throw just a lore or two at them. It's fine. I figured it out.
I have too many thoughts to type them out. I cannot be silent on this issue.
Okay, go ahead.
I actually did not realize that it was a common thing to change Izek to the brother of somebody else, because when I did it in my campaign for my rowdy boys, I was like, oh, this is perfect. This is so original. Now I'm like, oh, hey, same hat. Cool. But yeah, absolutely changing Izek, getting rid of the weird doll fetish.
I kept those actually because it still led into the creepy factor, which I still really loved.
For the kids, I got rid of the creepy doll factor.
Oh, that is
for my adult group, I left it in there, and they're dealing with that right now.
Yeah, that's valid.
But the other character that I changed in both of my campaigns is Stella.
Yes.
I adore Stella
so
much.
Stella.
And giving her a little bit more agency.
Same. That's essentially what my group is doing right now, is they rescued her and are getting her out of town, and she is slowly gaining her own agency by being with them.
Absolutely.
Love that for her.
Absolutely. Actually, one of my rowdy boys ended up marrying Stella at the end of the campaign, and it was like seriously one of my favorite moments in the entire campaign. Like it. One of the things I changed is not only though, like as a narrative tool, is not only is she locked up. Hey, Balian, I miss you, buddy. Already. Thank you for coming. One of my rowdy boys is in chat. We love them.
Hello.
Franz does know what you did to Irina. That's a whole other. They repented of that very quickly.
Gary's face.
And one of the things that I've had Lady Walker do is offer Stella as a marriage opportunity to my players. You kind of manipulate them into doing what they were doing, and it actually turned out that the characters love Stella so much that they were like, fuck your offer, but we're taking her with us.
Yeah, she's coming with us now. Bye.
So yeah, that is one of the major characters. Pretty much all of the Vistani I change up a lot, regardless
and that's
of the audience. But yeah, Stella and Isaac are like my main two that I will change up. And now I will stop talking.
Yeah, we had a long discussion about the Vistani last game or last discussion.
Vallaki was kind of a cluster in my game.
Session.
Interesting things happened in Wallachia with my players.
I heard it, Tessa. I couldn't unhear it. I'm so sorry.
I heard it too. I didn't say it, but I was like, you sound like an adult woman playing a teenage boy in a cartoon. So yeah, Timmy Turner. So let's see. Any other favorites that you changed, or the worst thing you absolutely had to change, otherwise it would have been a bad time?
I get rid of the whole drowning as well. That I don't well, at least for the kids, like that's a whole thing. Because I have a real hard
depends on the
with
group,
that one.
No, so, I personally did keep that in, but I double checked with my players beforehand. I double checked all lines and fails and such, and I knew my players were gonna.
Yes.
Do you want to talk about what we're referring to?
Yeah, I still have the spoiler thing up. If you want to, is it
okay.
What is that situation?
Yeah. So, in the Vistani camp, it is kind of a big thing when you first arrive there that a Vistani child is missing. It's kind of.
I see where this is going.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think it's the reason you think it is, Angela, but it's still like a yikes reasoning. Oh man, it feels icky, like explaining the raw. You know, it's so icky explaining it.
Do we want to give a slight trigger warning before we like get too far into it? Is that?
Yeah, I think child endangerment for sure is kind of the big one for this. I guess alcoholism is also kind of a factor on this, so I'm going to throw in alcoholism as another trigger for this. And drowning. We'll throw drowning in there as well, just for safety. I'll give people a moment. Okay. So in Vallaki, there is kind of a very minor NPC named Bluto. You don't really encounter him much, or at least my players didn't really interact with him much, which is I was fine with. Who kidnaps this Vistani girl, who's actually the daughter of one of the leaders of the Vistani camp near Wallachia, thinking that Vistani bring good luck, and that if he sacrifices her, it would give him fish to sell to then buy more booze at the only real tavern watering hole in Vallaki. And that happens when the players reach Lake Zarovich, I believe is Lake Zarovich is the location, because that's just north of Vallaki. And it basically throws her in a sack, trying to drown her, basically. Now, I knew my players had a good perception. I triple checked with my players before doing anything like this. This is something you have to approach your players with and discuss, because those are topics that could really go wrong. I mean, none of my players are parents, but we still are, conscious of kids' lives.
Yeah.
So it was something, and I also knew that one or two of my players was going to take action, and they did. Franz, looking at you, Franz, you immediately just dove right in to do the right thing.
I got a nat 20.
You got a
to
nat.
save her.
Nice.
It was, the DC wasn't that high. I was going to lower the DC to make it easier, but the nat 20, I'm like, oh, nope, yeah, they nail it. They just zoom through the water. So that was a whole thing, and that kind of put them in the good graces for the Vistani camp in my campaign, at least.
Yeah.
Also, Irina thought it was so brave.
Yup.
Thought it was so romantic.
Yeah,
Every
I
time-
kept that, but I removed the drowning and excessive peril to it because that was aligned for one of my players, but she still showed up and was missing in some capacity, and they still had to go find her, but the overall tone was a bit different.
Yeah, I mean, if I hadn't already checked with my players, I would have changed it if there was another way. I think this brought in enough peril and
Yeah.
For Arabella, who is the Vistani child you rescue, for her life being saved is a big boon for them.
Yes.
Especially because they also brought Bluto to the Vistani as here's the
Yep.
douchebag who did
My
it.
group did too.
Yep. He's like, here's the douchebag who did it. They're like, cool.
Jumping off from there to a very different topic, but one I think everyone here will enjoy, especially Franz. What's your favorite thing about portraying Irina?
Oh. I gotta think about that for a second.
So here's
Yeah.
the thing. I have not yet run Curse of Strahd.
No,
so
I know.
have-
I figured you'd just enjoy hearing about it.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I'm not at home right now, but I do have at least 7 depictions of Irina just up
You have a
around my
shrine.
room.
Mhm. Yep.
Stop.
I know.
No,
Yes,
can't.
you do. You have shown me pictures of this shrine. I know you have a
That's
shrine.
not a shrine. It's just decorations around my room.
Uh-huh. You
It's
can
not
keep
in one.
calling
It
it
is
that.
not. It is not in one specific space or area. Therefore, it's not a shrine. It's just all over my room.
Then your room's the shrine.
I was gonna
Okay.
say,
Listen, everyone is so mean to me.
love you. Gosh, yeah. I think what I like about Irina and my portrayal of her is that because Barovia itself is already such a dour place, majority of the people encountered there are so dour and down about the situation they're in. She is one of the very few beacons of, I don't want to say joy, because she has her own sadness. She has her own woes in my campaign, and I make that clear. She's not an always happy, it's like everything will be fine. It's like, I like portraying her as someone who provides hope, if that makes sense. Like she is a clear beacon of calm and light to others in Barovia. The only reason they're staying in Kresk, despite the circumstance in which they've come to Kresk, is because of Irina. I don't know, and I think also with the, again, because I don't always play her as everything will be just fine. No, she has her moments of fear. She is still a haunted woman from Strahd looming over her, and and she's still fighting, grief for her father, because in our campaign in game it's only been like a month. That could still be a very raw thing to feel, and especially with everything that also is going on around her. So she is despite her trauma, despite her sadness, despite the fear that she has, she is always trying to find a way to be a little hopeful, or finding hope in Israfel, her romantic interest. Calling you out, Franz, because you've also you as Israfel have thrown in some very good dialogue for Irina that has brought her back up, which has been great to play with you on that. It's been fun role playing with Franz on that aspect. It's been great.
Yeah, hi. I love her so much. Hi.
Anybody else have something to include about Irina? Oh, Tessa.
Yeah.
Calling God. The immediate reactions I have gotten of, dear God, why are they hot? It makes me giggle every time. Also, she's a fucking badass. I had her in my Rowdy Boys campaign as fighting Strahd from the inside of the castle, to the point where some of the imagery around Barovia began to change as she gained power.
Oh, that's
Oh.
cool.
I like that.
Oh, that's so
Wait,
cool.
let's talk about what the Roddy Boys did to Irina. Actually, like second session.
Okay, let's bring that up then, I guess.
It's a little bit too much to type. Bailey and I am calling you out. Because you are here, so sorry. They left Barovia with her in tow, and immediately went right on up to the gates of Castle Ravenloft and went, here's the person you've been looking for. What you gonna give us in return?
Oh my god!
Yep.
I was so mad. I was so mad. I was like, I shouldn't have told you.
They did tell her that they were gonna come back for her and that they were gonna fix it. Keep in
I don't
mind,
know if I would believe people doing that to me.
10 to 14, keep that in mind.
That's fair.
Hey, fair enough. My shot would have jumped at an opportunity for
Oh,
that.
but yeah.
God.
Oh, yeah.
And then he screwed them over by, yes, I will absolutely give you I know it wasn't your idea. I'm aware it wasn't your idea, Balian. Immediately screwed them over by giving them fake deeds to land and stuff in return, and that is when the lawyer came in and gave him paperwork for breach of contract. And yeah. Balian was definitely the voice of reason in that one. Like, this is a bad idea, but he was overruled.
I adore that. That's very good.
Lane, do you have
Yes.
a favorite thing?
I don't know if I have anything that hasn't already been mentioned, or that I can like put into specific words, if that makes sense.
For sure. Okay, then follow-up question. Franz, what's your favorite thing about Irina?
I mean, pretty much. I mean, here's the thing. Here's a fun thing. Everything that Gabby has already said, because she is someone who is going through so much, but like, especially in Gabby's fiction, she also does so much for other people. Like, there was a couple inciting incidents that, like, the reason why Israfel fell in love with her, right? One of them was Israfel is a Scourge Azamar. So they have a mask, and it also works the whole abortion thing as well. And their background is faceless. So that works even better. The whole thing is
amazing.
So
that's like
yummy.
Chamber from X-Men. That's rad.
But they actually wound up revealing their face sooner rather than later due to other extenuating circumstances. But the whole thing was like they did not eat or drink around the other player or the other characters. They did not like sleep without their mask on. And Irina saw this. And was like, do you like need privacy? So at the inn, she went down and she got like a blanket or something, and then like hung a blanket up between the beds so that Israel could take their mask off and sleep more comfortably. And then oh my god, Irina was on the bed and she tripped, and Israel caught her. And it was such a cute, stupid little rom-com moment. I forgot about that.
Yep.
Oh, it was so cute.
It was so good.
It was so good. It was so good.
She rolled a nat 1 on her dexterity balance
Oh.
check.
It was so cute. And then stuff happened. And then they pretended to be on their honeymoon walking through the streets as a disguise. So that was even more fun thing. So that's pretty much like when the whole love interest thing happened.
And that's how I met your mother.
Yeah, and that was after they died. She was like, "Oh my god, I missed you guys so much. Like, you were What do you mean you died?"
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because that happened.
Oh, that old chestnut. Every time you come back and your NPCs have to hear about what their paramours were up to.
Oh, yeah.
Well, this was
Yeah, we died. We're
pre-Paramore.
fine.
Well, no, Irina still has to
Yeah.
hear whatever the fuck y'all have gotten up into.
Oh, we didn't even tell Irina about how we died, just that we died.
Yeah.
I'm looking, that's embarrassing. Yeah, you want to talk about our fun thing that
Yeah,
happened?
explain this.
Look. I misread the module on what the level scale was supposed to be for where I sent y'all, and then y'all rolled badly, and I tried last minute to scale back, and y'all decided it was a great idea to separate yourselves and spread yourselves out so far and not see each other. And then I was rolling too well, y'all were rolling shit, and it all went to shit.
We died by twig blights.
Oh my god.
Okay, not just the twig blights, needle blights too.
I'm sorry, there were druids there. But I'm not telling Irina we died to some animated twigs.
Oopsie.
Also, I failed a dexterity check and put myself to sleep for 4 rounds, so that was also super fun.
Yeah, that was another one of the weaknesses of the abortion class. Yeah, abortion class was not very well.
That was a TPK, and that I'm sure that threw the campaign for a complete fucking.
Yeah. I had to throw things so much earlier at them for plot devices than I was expecting.
What is the most challenging yet rewarding thing that you have learned and done within the module?
Made sure that I actually warned the main character at this time, hey, you're not ready to go to the very dangerous place up in the mountains. Probably wait a bit before you level up a little more.
Giving your players clear expectations for the difficulty level, because you could lower the difficulty to make them be able to do it, but you don't have to.
My lesson was learned for that.
We're gods, right?
Oh yeah, no, that was a whole other thing too, Tessa.
Many things.
Yeah, too many.
Well, anything that you think that people who are considering running Strahd might find useful to hear from your experiences? Like, what would be, doesn't have to be the be-all, end-all, best advice you can think of, but some good advice for running the game.
Read the level scale for the locations you send your players on. Read them. Trust me. Read them. A place may sound easy, but it's not as easy.
Yes, I agree, Tessa.
This module is not as linear as others.
Yeah.
You have to prep and understand where your players are going and what the options are surrounding them. This is not a low prep module.
No, not at all.
Okay. Valid.
Yes, travel times. This is not a very big map.
I'm still working on my travel times.
I'm still working on my travel times.
So someone actually, I cannot remember who the user was on Reddit, but someone actually they got the image of the map, and with red lines, they actually marked from this point to this point. It's this much time. From this point to this point.
I don't remember who did that either, but I have that somewhere.
And so then I calculate all that time that it takes, and it's like, okay, you'll get there like midday. I'm gonna have to find it, but they're just, if you look up Barovia travel times, you should be able to find it. It's so helpful for me.
I know that this is a pretty common thing too. How often do you throw in the random encounters that they find on their travels?
Oh, I utilize them personally.
Okay.
Because to me, it is like I understand that some DMs don't like random tables and such.
Not me.
I
said, not me. I love random tables.
For me personally, I'm not a huge fan of random encounters all of the time. Sometimes they're not bad, but like if it's like every other 5 minutes, like I'm just like,
no. In my, I mean, the rules are pretty set for Curse of Strahd of how often they will have an encounter. In terms of like, if they have more than this amount, then they're not going to have any more encounters. So like they have a limit on how many encounters a day you're going to have when you travel. What I like about the encounters though is not all of them are combative, but I still think that they give you the idea of what is going on in Barovia, of like the kind of there is some weird stuff going on here in Barovia, because one of the random encounters that we actually had was finding a body
that looks exactly like one of the players.
Mm-hmm.
And
You
that
don't
was a lot of fun.
You don't
That was-
recognize the bodies in the water.
We really didn't react to
No,
it.
you didn't, because
No, I kind of kicked it.
You did.
Yeah, I'm like, hey, why does that look like me? Anyway, kicks the head.
Yeah, so I like them because I think they kind of show the danger of Barovia personally.
Yeah.
That's kind of like what I like is showing there's going to be a lot of danger here. You got to be ready for that.
Yeah, I usually use the non-combative ones, as Tessa said, and I'll sort of throw them in intermittently just because, again, my players want to do everything, but it can be too much, so just sort of throwing them in every once in a while is helpful.
Yeah, and I'll give you that. The using the non-combative ones or the least harmful ones depending on your player's like level. I think that works perfectly. Is keep in mind of the level of your players.
Yeah, that too.
So I have to ask this only because of how my campaign started.
Mm-hmm.
How did you introduce your character, your players to the world of Barovia, or to the land of rather than and getting in there? Because we had a very interesting.
Oh yeah, I heard
thing.
about this.
I will tell you after the fact because it was really funny.
Well,
once.
I used one of the introductions that were suggested in the book.
Okay.
And this is it is the one that used the Vistani who lured them. Because the reason why I use that specific one is because of the characters themselves. I had to think of the encounter because of the characters and how to get that introduced. So I had it start in like a local town, because that's where that specific start is because of how some of the player characters, their backstories are. I had to use that for them as the motivation for why they would all have encountered each other and have a reason to do this thing. And it was, what I also like about that one is it shows that Vistani can come and go as they please, as it is emphasized. It's like, you can come in, you can't leave though. My players haven't tested around and fucked around with that. But I personally like that one, just because I thought it was intriguing personally, and I thought that was enough of a draw for these particular characters. That's the only reason I chose it. And like I've done my best to try to work with some of the Vistani, and I've emphasized it in my game of like the Vistani at that camp. Those ones are the bad news. Like, but they're good just because those ones, just because of how I do the motivation, and also because I've also drawn in one of the players with their character, with their backstory onto that. That's good shit. Yeah, Franz. But I thought it was important to show, like how easy it could be to be lured into Barovia without the MacGuffin of just the mist coming at you.
Yeah, I did sort of the same thing. I took that and I changed it a little bit. The Vistani showed up with a couple of creepy letters that drew two of the players in, and I had one of my other players join later when they were already there. So they intermittently found her with another group of people because there was no other way for me to get her in the middle of the game.
Yeah,
so she
I like
been
that.
there for some amount of time already on her own with somebody else, and they kind of all convened together as like, oh wait, you're also not from here. Does anybody know what the fuck is going on?
Yeah, so yeah, Tessa and I have both, but the particular prompt is the plea for help is the one that we've used, which I liked that one out of all of them because I'm like, this is the easiest one I can use for these particular characters to get them. Now there might be other characters that I'll pull. I plan to run this module again, perfectly honestly, and I'm like, it really depends on my players. I'm probably not going to use the same introduction that I did for the one I'm currently running, or maybe I'll make up a new one because I am learning with this module.
Yay.
Oh, go ahead. I'm so sorry.
No, I'm also looking at like Tessa's.
I'm reading it.
Yeah, I'm reading.
Sorry, let me bring it into the discussion.
Yes.
So So backing up a little bit for random encounters, a few times I typically don't, but I will throw in one every now and again, specifically up the suspense factor. And usually I won't do a combat encounter. I like the hangman being one of the players.
Yes,
I did that too.
I did that too. It was so great.
Werewolves
Right there.
Werewolves in the Mist, which is one of the options from the campaign. One of the things about the games I ran for Rowdy Boys is that the players could sign up and come and go. So sometimes they just got bamfed.
Interesting. Like bamped into Barovia? Interesting. That's intriguing. Huh.
Like a horror Jumanji.
Oh my god.
They could come and go.
That's
So
More fucked
Specifically
up
the
Jumanji.
cartoon one. Specifically the cartoon, not the
How
movie.
did yours start, Allorah?
So ours opened, and this is not how we got in there, but this is how the campaign opened. It was literally the opening scene from Skyrim.
Oh my god.
So you woke up.
That was the full on. You're awake, I see. Kind of
Oh my god.
and we
Incredible.
were all getting like our crimes read to us of what mine was disturbing the peace, which I thought was funny. And ironic.
know
Oh,
what?
that's very good.
Allorah, my first Curse of Strahd game that only lasted a few sessions. We didn't get very far.
Uh-huh.
We also had something similar where we were all criminals and we were on a transport ship and then it crashed and we washed ashore in Barovia.
Okay.
Okay.
So yeah.
Yeah, no, so yeah, it was like there's a bunch of them. It was like murder was one of them. This guy in front of us gets guillotined. And then we're getting I think one of my friends has their character go up and they're about to like get beheaded, and then the werewolves in the mist kind of show up and everything like that.
Oh, interesting.
Which was
Okay.
really funny because I'm playing the pacifist character and I was the only one who attacked during the entire fucking encounter.
Oh my god.
We love it when the pacifist characters go just
I cast it. I think I cast spiritual weapon, and then I was like pulling people out of the mist. And a guard tried to arrest me in the middle of it. They were like, "You're supposed to be chained up, yada yada." I'm like, "This is not the time. You can arrest me later. Good talk." It was really fun. I'm like reading as Tessa's typing.
Yeah, same.
I've also used the plea for help. The one time I was a player, we were enticed into Barovia through the Vistani. I played an elderly dwarven paladin who had never gone adventuring, but left to protect her adopted daughter, and was also a player. Was that the grandma with the spoon? Yes, with the giant spoon!
I love that.
I'm a fan of giant spoons.
I know.
She finally decided it was okay to leave because she was terminally ill. Oh, fucking badass grandma. And didn't want to die alone. Oh my. Well, that's one way to hurt people with Curse of Strahd.
So, since we are getting pretty close to time of the hour and a half, if you had to leave everybody with one thing to take away from the module and from what you've learned, as well as just hyping it up to a degree, what would that be and why? Franz, you're also welcome to answer to this too, because you're playing in it. So it offers a different perspective.
Can you say that again?
Yeah,
I
say the
couldn't
question
process
again.
what you were saying.
Yes, same.
What is a takeaway from the module that you would like to leave with everybody that you have not necessarily found beneficial, but that you think is interesting?
I mean, the customization of what you can do with it, getting to kind of make it your own thing, really, and like how loosey-goosey you could play with the rules as written stuff. Because if you want to, you can change things. My cat is trying to break and enter into my room. My God.
Awesome. Tessa says, don't be afraid to lean into customizing the campaign to fit your players. There's enough options to make every time you run or play feel different.
Hell yeah. Yep.
Yeah, I was going to say something very similar. Do not be afraid to make it your own. There is, especially in this module where you are where I so deeply encourage people to homebrew it. Take what you think is going to work and remove what doesn't. Make it your own. There are actually a lot of really incredible resources out there since this module's been out so long of people who have come up with ideas on how to change it and edit it. And I have taken a lot of it from other Reddit threads or other websites of people who have run this game and come up with really interesting concepts, some of which I've never heard of before, but made perfect sense for my players.
Yep.
There are so many resources out there for this module specifically that are incredibly helpful. And even if you don't use it exactly, they are great to jump off and take your own inspiration from.
That is not fair, Tessa.
Tessa is planning on doing a gender-bent Strahd. What does that mean? She is the land, y'all. What does that mean? Is that a quote from the game?
It's a quote.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh my god, the Grussy.
He is the land. Oh.
Oh God, why?
We were in the Amber Temple and there's a giant hole in the floor, and we were like, oh yeah, the Grussy.
Why would you say that again?
I hate it.
I made Gabby say it once, and I think we caught it recording on Craig.
My biggest
She is
regret.
the land, y'all. Absolutely, she is. Pivoting rapidly, the biggest takeaway that I would give people is that this TTRPGs in general is a game about trust, but Curse of Strahd and horror ones in general is so important to make sure that you do have trust at the table. As a player, I have to trust that Gabby understands my limits, and I have to trust them when he says like, no, like XYZ is not going to happen. And in order to like suspend my disbelief and all that, I have to trust him. And I fully do. So that is, it is a game about trust. And that from a player perspective, especially, that's the most important thing I can give you.
Absolutely. Hell yeah.
That's a powerful lesson for TTRPGs in general.
I think that's a powerful lesson for GMs too, is to make sure to have your players' trust and to make sure not to break that trust and check in with your players when you're running this campaign.
Yes.
No matter what you can even do to customize it, still check in with your players. I have had to check in with my players after some like intense RP sessions or anything like that. I'm like, hey, you good? We're okay? Like, is everything okay? Do I need to interview? Like, checking in this game is so important.
Yeah, in that same vein, from a player perspective, also don't be afraid to check in with your GM, because they're doing a lot and sometimes they're not catching everything. So just make sure, if there is something that's bothering you, that you're bringing it to them if you have the opportunity to do so first, if they're not checking in with you right away. Just so there is that mutual, it's a conversation, not somebody just...
A perpetual conversation.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So.
absolutely. I think that's a really good takeaway.
Yeah.
All right, so we could, I'm sure we could wax on for a very long time about Curse of Strahd as a concept. I know.
I literally was thinking it, like...
I know. We are a meme culture. No matter what we say, someone will draw a parallel to something and inevitably quote it. I'm usually the one quoting. All right. Well, that was part 2 of our panel about running the Curse of Strahd. You all have been amazing. Tessa, thank you for soldiering on despite your debilitating cruddiness. And Naomi, thank you for joining us despite your obviously falling to Strahd early on in our adventure. And Gabby and Lane, thank you so much for joining us.
Of course. Thanks for having me. I was so excited when I heard I got to do this.
It's lovely to see your face, Gabby.
Gabby has been slobbering over this opportunity for months.
Amazing. Well, we're very glad. I was very glad we were able to get everybody to come in. This will obviously not be our last panel. We'll try to come up with... There's 1,000,001 things to talk about when it comes to RPGs, and we have a lot of friends with a lot of experience, so we are very, very much excited to have future panel events here on DRPG. So, I'll go through our little spiel here. We didn't do a lot of talking about our sponsors, but please take a look at our sponsors and look at the links in chat if you would like to follow and help support us as a network. We here at DRPG are specifically sponsored by Grinding Coffee. They're an LGBTQ Black-owned business. They are very badass. They sell coffee and coffee subscriptions, and you can use the code DRPG to get 10% off your purchase with them. Definitely check them out. They have lots of skull imagery in their merch, so if you are so inclined, in the spooky mood, please feel free to peruse that. We also are a place in which you can get merch. You can find us on Etsy, etsy.com/shop/nerdsmith shop, or just search Nerdsmith shop, or go to nerdsmith.org/shop. Those all go to the same place. You can find our flat enamel dragon egg pride pins are there. You can also find our Dead Names Tell No Tales trans pirate stickers. We'll have some more merch coming very soon, so keep an eye out for that. Please follow us here on Twitch or on Twitter if you want to know when we go live with new stuff. We have... Oh, I forgot Die Hard Dice. And I'm sorry, Tessa, there were a lot of things to put in the chat. This week, we have a couple of fun announcements. So today is still Tuesday, or still Monday. Tomorrow is Tuesday. I'm sorry, tomorrow is Tuesday, which means it is Hero Forge Treasure Tuesday. No, I'm just kidding. That is what it is. But also, Tuesday is the next episode of Shenanigans Bag World, in which we said goodbye to a beloved character or a beloved player last session, and this week we say hello to a familiar face with a new player behind it. Who knows what that means? We'll find out as we welcome Mouse to the cast of Goonies Bag World, as we'll be bringing her in. So that is same time as this show, 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern. Hey, Mouse, what you doing? Maury, let me in! We love you, Maury. And then on Thursday, we have the premiere of our new Nerdsmith Presents series, Spring Break Gone Wrong, which is a Monster of the Week campaign. We have a few people, some people here maybe might be in it. Maybe. We got some cool character art by Allorah herself. And Bo, who is a friend of the network, has been on several of our shows, will be running the game. And we will be having a good time. That's premiering this Thursday. Same time, right? 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern?
I believe so.
That is correct.
Yeah.
Kick-ass. Good, because I'm running that episode. I should know what time it starts.
Yeah, and you are in the premiere.
And then on Friday, are we continuing with Dragon's Crown? We still got show?
Oh, man, quite frankly, it's still up in the air.
Okay.
Yeah, that's right.
There will be a notice
up in
out
the
a
air.
little bit later this week whether or not it will be premiering.
Yeah.
Schedules.
Yeah.
I really want to because we missed last week because there were just tornado sirens going on.
We
for like an hour.
we were in
under
danger,
attack.
and while while the Westerners are typically troopers, barbecue out when the tornado's out, but this one was a little scary, Loki, not gonna lie.
Well, I'm glad you guys are safe.
Yeah.
And then we have on Monday, we have Nerdsmith Pixel, which I'm sure involves us playing some more Last of Us. As long as Franz is up for it, we are happy to continue playing.
As long as I'm back by then.
If you're not back by then, we will come up with an alternative video
If
game.
not, I'll play the last.
We're not going to start over.
No.
You guys have to
Allorah knows where we
parallel
left
play,
off.
so you're at the same place.
I do know where we left off.
That's there before stream.
No, I have concepts that I want to throw your way.
I'm gonna make Allorah play Elden Ring if it's the last thing I do.
I've been busy, okay?
I know, it's fine. So that is our plan for this week, and then we're right back here on Never mind. That's Monday. Monday is Nerdsmith Pixel rather than Discover RPG. I don't know. I was trying to come back around and end up in the same show, and it didn't happen. It was weird. Thank you all so much for watching. We really appreciate it. Thank you for the resubscribes, Matthew, Lane, and we had a really awesome time. So please be sure to follow these amazing people on Twitter or Insta in Naomi's case, and we will see you all next time. Please have a great rest of your night. Have a safe rest of your week. Be good, make good choices, and above all, do us all a favor and be good to each other. Goodbye, everybody. Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.